It's kind of wild, right? How predictable people can be. I
Yeah.
mean, we like to think we're all making our own choices, charting our own paths, but zoom out a little, look at the bigger picture. You see trends and patterns repeating themselves all over the place.
Definitely.
And according to Maurice Lambie, the author we're diving into today, understanding those patterns, that human predictability, it's not just fascinating, it's like a secret weapon, especially for salespeople, even in like final expense sales, where you might think it's all about individual conversations, one person at a time.
Right, exactly. And that's what's so cool about Lambie's book, Social Dynamic Selling. Yeah, he knows final expense like the back of his hand. But what he's saying, it goes way beyond that specific industry.
Totally.
He's talking about how people work, how we make decisions. So whether you're, trying to close a big deal or just figure out why some ads work better than others, this stuff is gold, pure gold.
Couldn't agree more. And that's exactly what we're doing in this deep dive, right? Extracting those golden nuggets from Lambie's work and making them useful for you. Absolutely.
So you can, as Lambie puts it, work smarter, not harder, by tuning into those rhythms, those patterns in people's lives, their emotions, their finances, when they're most likely to need what you're offering.
That's the core of it. This social dynamic selling, it's like taking that instinct, that gut feeling the best salespeople have about people and making it, more systematic.
Right, like a formula almost.
Exactly. It's about quantifying those gut feelings, turning them into like a reliable process for connecting with people.
And we're going to explore some pretty surprising stuff you might not expect when you hear sales, like why Lambie says you should never apologize for bringing up insurance.
Yeah, that one got me thinking.
Right. And the surprisingly big role that the idea of legacy plays in all of this. So buckle up. We're diving deep into the world of social dynamics and how to sell effectively by, actually understanding people. Let's do it. So, predictable patterns in life, right? Lambie starts with the calendar, with holidays.
Yeah.
He points out how we have these very predictable behaviors around them. He even mentions those classic Thanksgiving family arguments.
Oh, yeah. Every family's got them.
Right. And then, of course, Christmas gift buying.
Yeah.
Every year, like clockwork, the MLK Day marches, Memorial Day, everyone remembering and honoring.
It's like he's showing us this rhythm to the year, almost like that line from Ecclesiastes, to everything there's a season, a time to every purpose under heaven.
Yeah, I love that.
And Lambie's saying this cyclical nature, it's not just for the big events, it's woven into our weeks, our days.
Totally. He even shares this great line from, I think it was a cruise ship server. He said, give your enemy your dinner, give your friends your lunch, breakfast keep for yourself.
That's a good one.
Right. And really gets at that idea that different people, different groups have their own rhythms.
So true.
Think about your morning routine. Most people, it's pretty consistent day in and day out.
Yeah, for sure. And Lambie connects us to different, he calls them people groups. So like someone who buys luxury cars, their buying cycle, their maintenance schedule, it's going to look way different from, someone who's all about budget-friendly transportation. And of course, in final expense, where a lot of clients are on a fixed income, you see those very clear patterns with, when they get paid.
Right. First of the month, third of the month, or those specific Wednesdays for Social Security.
Exactly. And understanding that is huge when you think about the difference between what Lambie calls price and cost.
Yeah.
The price is just the number, right? But the cost, that's the real impact on someone's finances.
Yeah. How much they actually have to give up.
Right. So knowing your final expense clients are often on a fixed budget means you got to tailor your approach, your offers, to when they actually have money coming in.
Definitely. It's about timing.
He even gives this example of coal miners back in the day. They were paid daily, so their need for insurance was immediate.
Right. They had to think about the what ifs right then and there.
Exactly. But now, with most people getting paid every other week or monthly, that financial horizon changes how and when they make decisions.
It's more stretched out.
Yeah, exactly. And this predictability thing, it even applies to stuff like responding to leads.
Oh, yeah.
Lambie talks about these mail-in leads, right? By the time it gets to the salesperson, weeks, maybe even months have gone by.
Right. So that initial interest, that spark that made them respond, it's probably faded.
Exactly. So he says you have to find a way to reawaken that trigger.
Remind them why they were interested in the first place.
Exactly. We'll get into those serious emotional events later. But the point is, you're not just calling a cold lead. You're engaging with a person whose life has moved on since they first reached out.
And that's what Lambie's driving at in this first part. You got to figure out those predictable patterns buying habits, closing behaviors, especially for specific groups of people.
Yeah.
It's about moving away from, those random bursts of sales success and making it more consistent by understanding those rhythms, that human predictability.
So, all right, let's shift gears a little. Talk about how you actually connect with people.
Okay.
The power of presentation, the emotional side of things. Lambie tells the story about his friend Junior, who could get people to give him money for anything, even something as basic as light bulbs for his mom.
That's awesome.
Right. It showed him how important it is, the way you ask, the words you use.
Totally. And then Lambie talks about his experience selling cars
Oh, yeah.
and this huge missed opportunity he saw. The car companies, they would spend a fortune on these beautiful brochures, packed with persuasive language.
Right.
But the salespeople, they just completely ignore them.
What?
It's like, hello, this is your sales pitch right here. But they didn't use it.
And this next story, this is where things get really interesting. Lambie's insight about the power of apologizing, even when it seems completely random. He tells the story about his neighbor who kept parking on his lawn, which, understandable, frustrating.
Oh.
And instead of going over and having a polite conversation, Lambie calls the cops. It wasn't until later they were face to face and the neighbor just says, "Maurice, all you had to say was, 'Ben, please stop parking on your lawn.'"
And I bet that just defused the whole thing.
It did. And when Lambie apologized, for not just saying that directly, it was this moment of reconciliation. It showed him how much we all need to be acknowledged,
Yeah.
and the power of a simple, "I'm sorry," to build rapport, to smooth things over.
It makes you wonder how often we miss those little chances to connect, just on a human level.
Exactly. And Lambie's point is the presentation, it's not just about spitting out facts and figures. It's setting the stage for the close.
Mm-hmm. Building that trust.
Yeah, creating that foundation for them to make a decision. And he says when a client's deciding, there are three things at play: what they want, what they need, and what they can afford. And that last one, affordability. That's the cornerstone.
For sure. Especially in final expense. It has to be something they can actually keep up with, long term.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to those serious emotional events.
Okay, yeah.
Lambie says it's so important to weave a personal story into your presentation, maybe about a loss you've experienced, someone you know, to really connect with the client on why final expense matters.
Right. Because it is about, facing that reality.
Exactly. And by serious emotional event, he's talking about things that really bring home the fragility of life, the financial side of things.
Right, like a loss of a loved one, maybe a health scare, even just hearing about someone who's struggled financially after a death.
Exactly. And that leads us to the heart of why people buy or don't buy insurance. Lambie has this quote that's like a punch in the gut, He says, "Most people will put as much effort into preparing for the day they will die in direct proportion to the effort they put into the day they were born."
Wow. That's, that's powerful.
It is. Think about it.
Yeah.
We go all out for births, right? Celebrations, preparations. But when it comes to death, we avoid it. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, no one wants to think about it.
Exactly. And Lambie says that's tied to this human desire to keep going, to live forever. He even talks about how different religions and belief systems, they all grapple with this longing for permanence.
It's like, even if you don't believe in heaven or anything, there's still this urge to leave a mark, a legacy.
Absolutely. And that bumps up against the whole idea of, our own ending being finite.
He uses a really good analogy from the book Creativity, Inc. About how you can't really get excited about a pregnancy until you know for sure it's happening. You need that confirmation to spark the anticipation. And he's saying it's similar with death. It's this future event. There's no immediate trigger for most people.
Right. It's too abstract.
Exactly. But, as Lambie keeps reminding us, death is going to happen. Final expense. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. But people need that emotional trigger, that serious emotional event to really make it real, to take action.
So how do we take all this understanding of patterns, emotions, and actually use it in sales? Lambie gives this little history lesson on lead generation. From door to door, which, let me tell you, that's a grind, to mail-in leads, TV ads, and now Facebook leads. He even says, and this is kind of funny, that Facebook is basically for old people.
Uh-huh. Well, that's your final expense market, right?
Exactly. And this is where he introduces the idea of a social dynamic mental sales algorithm. Basically a mental checklist you build based on these patterns' individual situations. Like if you know it's the end of the month and your client's on a fixed income, you're going to talk differently.